Tension on deck.
Hey, Ron. What's going on, man? How are you?
Doing well. Doing well. A very troubling time here in the city. Uh, as everybody knows, we had a very serious incident, active shooter incident on Monday in the city. And we're going to get into that a little bit later.
Hmm.
But just to open the show, part of what happened is we did lose a member of the NYPD, police officer, Dilrul Islam, and we want to pay tribute to him. Uh, and it's just a horrible thing. Seems like he was working his off-duty um, paid detail, and this perpetrator came in and put the sights right on him and shot him multiple times, causing his demise. So we just want to pay a little respect to police officer Dilrul Islam as we open the show.
Yeah, a very sad story, right? I mean, it's always, I don't, I wonder how many people, how many times there's the wife is pregnant and the officer ends up getting, killed. It's so sad. You hear about it all the time. And is it because they're trying to raise a family and they're working hard and they're out there hustling and doing the best that they can do for their family and the times, or is it just by chance? But either way, I mean, this poor officer, his poor wife pregnant, his two children, his father, I mean, has starts to have health issues while he's there, right? I mean, it's tragic all around. And it's just, I mean, it's tragic always when we see an officer. No, I don't care if how long you retired,
Um,
or how soon you came on the job, but as soon as a police officer gets hurt, I mean, they're members of your family. That's how bad it hurts. So it's just devastating,
Yeah,
and it's really it's a sad day. I think the information for his wake and stuff is for tomorrow, right? Is it
yeah,
31st, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Tomorrow at Parkchester uh, Haim Masood Funeral Home. He's Muslim, obviously. 1203 Virginia Avenue in the Bronx. The viewing schedule is different than the MOS are going to be used to because of his religious background and um, the traditions of his religion. So they have a separate viewing for females and a separate viewing for males. I know with the NYPD, we talk, we're all blue, male, female, we're all blue, but here, you have to respect police officer Islam's religious beliefs and followings. So the female viewing is going to be from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And another interesting thing is that head coverings are going to be mandatory. I'm sure they will have head coverings to distribute. And I'm sure the Bangladeshi Association with the police department will be there to help and guide uh, with the protocols. And then the male viewing is 11 to 12. Um, and then, John and Eric and Marlon, they spoke about it this morning, John and Eric. The 12 to 1 o'clock is on the first floor, and the other two are in the basement. I'm not sure the setup. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but there's a first floor viewing for executives, family, and friends only. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I know John and Eric had their opinions on it. Uh, I personally have always been, you know, first and foremost, you got to get the immediate command in. So I don't know the space that's available, the size, uh, but priority should be to those who were his brothers and sisters in the 4-7 precinct, and they should have priority. Now, the police commissioner, first deputy commissioner, chief of department, chief of patrol, but not all executives. Uh, his commanding officer, executive officer, but not all executives, I think, should have priority. What are your thoughts on that one?
No, I totally agree. Like if I was there and they said, you're gonna come in, I'd rather give up my spot for somebody that was from the 4-7 that knew him and worked with him than me standing there. I mean, obviously, if there was room, I would definitely want to go in. But if it means that I'm taking a spot that some police officer that worked with them and they're there to pay the respect can't get in, well, then no, then that's wrong. So I mean, I don't know how it's set up, but normally, like you said, you're right. The command that the MOS came from wears white underneath their dress blues, and they go in first. And then
Right.
there's usually the first, if you in a Catholic one, there's the first couple of pews are set up for the executive staffs, and they come in. But the command is usually, I think, if I remember correctly, one side was the executives, and then back was family and friends, and the other side was MOS that worked with him, that from his command.
Yeah.
I don't know. Obviously it's a different religion and stuff, so how it's set up, but I don't think there should be a separation between taking out the command and the executives. If listen, it's more important that the men and women that worked with him that are that knew him really well should be in there first and paying their respects. So if it means the executives are in there and taking out places from other people, no, then it's wrong. But if there's enough room for everybody, then yeah, then everybody can go in. I
Well,
never seen it where they said that just executives and stuff like that. But
yeah, and again, Mad Girl is asking executive, family, and friends divided by gender as well. It does not specify that, so I don't know. I'm sure, like I said, they'll be guided by the Bangladeshi Association representatives for the police department and the family. And as always, the funeral home will also give them directions. And Leonard Armstrong is saying very small place in the 4-3. Priority is to family and friends in the 4-7, which is absolutely right. But we all know they want to make this political, and
right.
we will get into that a little later after we talk about our main topic, which is going to be on the
And
excessive.
you see, Samara Cohen asked, I think, about his promotion. A couple guys, like Terry Manane and Joel Ramirez, and they all answered it. And yeah, probably it usually happens on the day of the funeral where they'll promote him
Yeah,
to a first grade detective. So
yeah. During the police commissioner's remarks
right,
is when they normally promote them to detective first grade. Which, for those who aren't familiar, it's something that started under Bill Bratton, where he promoted them. MOS is killed in the line of duty. Also started a new. I think it's a 6,000 shield number for the detectives for uh, those killed in the line of duty. And the reason that they do that is so that the family gets a better pension, because a detective first grade is the pay grade of a lieutenant, basically. So I think it's done to honor the fallen, but also to assist the family uh, in the aftermath with the pension benefits of a higher pension. So yeah. Also, speaking of that, BarStool, Dave Portnoy and BarStool has once again stepped up, created a T-shirt for police officer Durrell Islam. It says "Back to Blue NYPD" on the back. It's got the PD patch with the morning band through it, and then Officer Islam's name and command on the right sleeve, as he's done in the past. All proceeds from the shirts go directly to the family, and he will also match personally match whatever is raised for the family. So if you're buying a shirt, you're donating double the money to the family through this. I ordered mine as soon as it came out, and it's a great thing that he does. The link for this shirt to purchase is in the description of today's show on YouTube. So just go into there. You can click right on the link. It'll bring you right to it. And you can purchase the shirt. I think it's about $35 if I remember correctly. So what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's a great thing that the proceeds go to the family. Obviously they're gonna, they need some, I mean, emotional and probably financial support at this time, before everything kind of this dust settles. So, yeah, no, that's a good thing, and it's good of the company to do that, right? I mean, that's very generous, and and that's what you like to see in grieving times like this. People step up and show their generosity.
I
So
also saw a post on X that Tunnel to Tower Foundation will be supporting the family financially. I'm not sure exactly in what capacity. I don't know if they have a house with a mortgage. Normally, when a first responder is killed in the line of duty, um, they pick up and pay off the mortgage. I don't know if they own the house, if they rent it, or whatever the case may be, because they didn't say that they're going to pay off the mortgage. They said they're going to be assisting financially. So whatever that means, thank you to the Tunnels to Tower Foundation, who is a phenomenal organization as well. Uh, but yeah, so we're going to talk more about the actual incident in a little while. But we just want to honor Officer Islam at the start of the show. Tim Silver is asking if it's going to be televised. Don't know. A lot of times they do, but again, it's going to be up to the family and up to the location. It's not, in a big church where they can set up cameras and everything else. It's in a funeral home. So, and from what everybody's saying here, and I'm being corrected by QC Beast, that it was Ray Kelly that started the posthumous promotions with Dylan Stewart. So I stand corrected or sit corrected. I thought it was Commissioner Bratton. But yeah, so somber day. Tomorrow again will be another sad time. Whether they televise it, I'll watch it. In honor of him. But yeah, it's
yeah, I mean,
tough.
usually, I mean, it it usually drums in some of the media and stuff, so there might be stuff outside. I know, usually at funerals, right? They'll play the audio that's in the church or whatever's, or the mosque, whatever's said inside. Usually, simulcast it outside. But yeah, it's definitely a sad day, and
Mm.
hopefully the family, going forward, you know, some of their pain goes away, but I guess you can never, especially for the children.
Yeah, you have
That's
three young children. One who's never
yeah,
going to even meet his father.
no,
So yeah. All right, let's move on and let's get into the meat of the show. A lot's been said lately, and we've been talking on all the shows on the network. It's been obviously the talk of the job, the rank and file, about uh, the retention problem, the recruitment problem. We've discussed that in the past. And also, we've talked about discipline as well. We discussed the discipline matrix more than really how is the discipline affecting the job, affecting both morale and the retention, causing people to leave because they feel like they're being treated unfairly. And, again, just watching the news, watching what comes out online, speaking to former members of the service, speaking to current members of the service. Um, a lot of people talk to John and Eric, and they get a lot of information that is completely credible and seems to always pan out. They talk about breaking rumors, breaking unconfirmed this that, and then sure enough, within days it's all coming out because a lot of people watch the Finest Unfiltered, and the news media watches the Finest Unfiltered. They do their digging, and the next thing you know, it pops up in the Post, the Daily News, and here and there. So one of the things that's coming out is really excessive discipline in the NYPD, and what we consider excessive discipline. From our time on the job, we spent 2/3 of our careers as executives, so we've dealt with a lot uh, of discipline on this job, where we've had to adjudicate discipline, where we've had to give discipline. It comes both ways. Just before we go any further, Bobby's asking, where do we order the T-shirts? You can go into the link on the show description, Bobby, right here on YouTube, and there's a link to BarStool's Sports where they have the shirts. It'll bring you right to the page with the shirts. So, but yeah, so a lot of it's going on, and it's really, from what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, it's killing morale. It's driving people away from the job. It's driving people to not want the job. Also, what's your initial take on all of this?
So, I mean, originally I was in opposition to John and Eric, right? Because they always said it's all internal things that affect police officers' morale. And I often said, well, I thought there was a lot of external things that also affect them. But when they spoke about it the other day on the podcast, they actually made a really, really great point that there's always been external problems, right? There's always been external pressures that have been put on the job. And you know what police do? They adapt and they overcome. So they're always capable of dealing with the things, and we still do our job. But now, like you just said, there's major internal issues that are put on cops. And one of them is excessive discipline. So if you think that you're like, and we'll talk about it, but if you think you did something bad, all right, you're possibly going to get a craft, which minor violation, right? It's put in your phone, or the supervisor puts it in his phone and does a craft on you or whatever. And I forget what craft stood for, right? But it's like a minor violation, and then, or you can get a command discipline. So that means you're going to get what's known as a CD, and you kind of accepted that and you moved on. But now all of a sudden, there's additional penalties to these things that not even associated with command disciplines, right? If you remember, like an A, which is the smallest command discipline, they could take up to 5 days. That was the max. So, all right, I get a command discipline. Yeah, it's a lot. But how many times did you negotiate a CD, and how many times did you really take 5 days? I never took 5 days. So, I mean, I think it's seriously, you did take 5 days.
I might have taken 5 days once or twice, but they probably deserve charges.
Well, I guess it depends on the times they were there. Yeah, right. And then you have the BCD, which is up to 10 days, I think it was. And then they come up with the new the C command discipline, which was from an outside agency, and that could be more, I think, up to 15 or something, or whatever it was. But when I took a time where I adjudicated a CD, that was it. I didn't change tours. I didn't transfer. And if I was going to transfer, or if I was going to take, or move somebody to a different squad or something, that's all I did. I didn't do both, right? And that drums down morale. I mean, really does. First of all, a CD to me is the last resort, right? A command discipline is the last resort. You don't need the discipline. There's other things to do. So it's crazy. Joel Ramirez is saying that Kraft is no longer present in the department. I thought they still had it, but
I think it's there. They just don't use it.
It's not used. Yeah, that's why I said I would be self-crafting all the time, because you could do positive crafts too. But that's how I feel it is. I think there's so many internal things that are killing morale, and the department is not doing anything about it. So
no, I think they're exacerbating it, because, like you said, a command discipline is internal discipline, right? And it's supposed to be sent back to the command to be adjudicated by the commanding officer, who knows the member. And you're supposed to take things into consideration when adjudicating it. Now, fair and equitable disposition of of discipline doesn't mean that if Ron and Rob got the exact same CD for the same thing, that you have to get the same penalty.
Right.
Because you take into consideration prior discipline, their work performance, their their attitude towards the situation, whatever the case may be, and you take these things into consideration when adjudicating the CD. And there's other things that you can do. You can change the person's tour. You can limit their outside details for a certain number of times. There's things that you can do, right? But what we're seeing now is that they're getting very heavy-handed. And in the beginning of the summer, and I couldn't find it. I looked. I had the guys in the network looking for me. We couldn't find it, but it was definitely posted earlier in the summer before the All Out went out. And it was basically a memo that was warning people, if you're late for All Out, or if you blow off the detail, because All Out's not a permanent assignment this year. Now they're sending people haphazardly where you may go today, I might go tomorrow, whatever the case may be, instead of temporarily assigning people for the entire summer. So they warned people, more or less, if you show up late, you're going to get transferred to that command until the end of the summer. For being late?
No.
We've talked about in the overtime issues in the past podcasts about how people are going to these details because they're report direct, which means you're supposed, your tour, your tour duty starts when you get there, right? And then you get a certain amount of time called travel time up front and at the end, which means if it's within the patrol borough that you work, you get 45 minutes on each end. And then if it's outside your patrol borough, you get an hour and 15 minutes called travel time, right? Because that's supposed to mean that you go to your command, you get dressed, and you got an hour and 15 minutes to get there, or an hour and 15 minutes, or 45 minutes, depending on where it is. And that's what you're supposed to do. But the reality is that people take their stuff home. They go directly from home. You're not getting a department auto to get there. You're carpooling with other people or driving direct. They're not giving you secured locations to park your vehicle. We talked about that when that officer was assaulted, right?
Yeah.
It's just they're not helping the situation. And then say you live in Brooklyn South. Say you live in Coney Island and you have a detail in Upper Manhattan in Harlem. It's going to take you more than an hour and 15 minutes to get there, right? Or you work in the 6-0, right? So I go to the 6-0, I get dressed, I get suited up, right? Take my radio out of the charger, take my body-worn camera out of the dock, because I have to dock it at the end of my last tour, right? And then I got to go. And I'm not in a police car. So I got to go. I got to travel into Manhattan, pay for congestion pricing, right? Get there. And what if I hit traffic? What if there's an accident on the Bell Parkway? What if there's an accident on a BQE? What if there's an accident on the FDR Drive? And I got to take up First Avenue or Third Avenue or whatever the case may be, right? Then what? It may take me more than an hour and 15 minutes to get there. I gave myself 2 hours to get there. I still didn't make it on time. So now I have to worry about getting transferred?
Yeah, no, it's definitely not fair. I mean, you got to think about how long do you have to consider that I got to get there in advance, right? Because it could be no traffic, and the next thing you know, you're sitting in your car there waiting for an hour for the detail to start or whatever. You're not going to get any parking spot, so you're stuck driving around looking for a spot, especially if you're in Manhattan or whatever. God forbid you might get a ticket or whatever from a traffic agent or whatever for parking on a meter or what. But yeah, I mean, and then if you're missing a piece of equipment, then what happens, right? So you're late and you're missing a piece of equipment, right? So think about that. You have to go. I mean, years ago, if you knew you had a detail tomorrow and you knew you had to report direct, you would either say, all right, take my uniform home and I'll just go from my house right to the detail so I don't have to worry about driving back to the command. Or you would go to the command get your uniform, get everything you got, and maybe carpool with a bunch of other guys and gals and go to the detail. And then you come back and then you go home. But now you got to worry about the body worn camera. Like you said, you're throwing it in a docking station at night, right? So it can download whatever information that it has on it. And then now you got a detail the next day. You're not bringing that body worn camera home. You, no matter what now, it seems to me you got to go to that command and get your body worn camera, unless you're depending on somebody that's already at the command to bring you that body worn camera. And then now you're at a detail, or let's say you get your uniform and you jump in the car and then you race to the detail because now you're a little bit late and you forget to take your body worn camera with you. It's almost like they seem to think like you committed a felony, that you're at this at this detail without the body worn camera. Listen, it's excessive. It's excessive to do what they're doing with the CDs and the transfers at that point.
Well, I'll push back a tiny bit. I understand what you're saying, that you have to dock it at the end of your tour so that it uploads everything into the system, right? Then you have to go in and you have to tag every job that you had and every interaction that you had. Every time you turned it on, it has to be tagged, right? And so it needs to be charged. It's mandatory equipment. Like it or not, it's mandatory equipment. So if you're going to a detail, it's mandatory equipment. So if you don't have mandatory equipment when you get to the detail, I think that's different than being a little bit late, because we've heard that people will be in hammered with excessive discipline for showing up late, even transferred, right? And then recently, just last week, it came out that 3 sergeants and 2 detectives were transferred for, like you said, because they didn't show up to an all-out detail with their body-worn cameras. So that, I think, is completely excessive. I really, honestly, don't have an issue with maybe them getting a CD sent back to command, and let the CO deal with it. Let the CO handle it. It's a command discipline. You came, you weren't properly equipped. Get a CD and answer to the commander, and see what happens. But to transfer people for the rest of the summer because they showed up without equipment, it's excessive. And in the beginning of the summer, there was a whole slew of people, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 sergeants, 1, 2 detectives, 2, 3, 4, 5 POs from a whole bunch of details that were transferred because they were late. It's reported that they were transferred because they were late to a mobile field force. To me, that's insane.
What I think what Deuces 300 says there is spot on. And it's a great idea. You have to report to the command post, right? When you get there, and you got to give your information to the sergeant or whoever, or the sergeant gives it to the lieutenant. Why not have a docking station with spare body worn cameras that somebody can say, well, hold on, hear me out. So just for that day, years ago, I was on a detail and the guy from counterterrorism gave me a radiation detector. And he said, I'm going to issue to this there was a parade or whatever. He goes, I'm going to issue this to you for the day, use it. Okay. And I did. And he said, did it go off? And I said, no, it never went off. He goes, it never went off. And then he looked at it. He goes, oh, the batteries are dead. And I said, all right, thanks a lot, man. That really makes me feel comfortable. But listen, I always think, why not make it a little bit easier? Make it a little bit easier for the cops. If somebody forgets a piece of, it's not like they forgot their gun, for Christ's sake. They forgot a body worn camera. So
Right.
Make it a little bit. I know people who got CDs and were beat upon just for not bringing out their nightstick, made to walk back from the 4-6 precinct back to the borough, to the 4-8, because she forgot her nightstick. I mean, and she got a CD on top of that. So like literally go back to the command, walk back, waste a resource. This lieutenant made her waste a resource, made her walk all the way back to the 4-8, the borough, get a nightstick, walk all the way back. You're literally wasting like 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. You're putting the police officer at harm's way, walking all the way back. It's ridiculous. And then a CD on top of that.
Yeah.
So I mean,
no, I agree that's excessive. I don't think that it's possible to just give a loaner body-worn camera because they're assigned to that officer for the day. And when you download it, it's being downloaded with all your metadata and everything else. So I don't think it's like a radiation detector or a radio or something else where you could just loan somebody for the day. I don't think it's possible to give them a body-worn camera because, you know, if it's used and it's an incident, the cross-referencing in the computer, I don't know that. I think that would be a little bit more difficult with that. Other pieces of equipment, radios, yeah, there always used to be a radio truck, right? Because radios with the battery should be dead. You have to get a battery. Back in the day when we went, you didn't have all the channels for all the divisions. Now you do. Now the radios you can change them if you know how to different boroughs and different divisions and everything else.
Too hard.
But Samara's saying, should you wear a body-worn camera even if the battery is dead? Yeah, to cover yourself because you have it. If the battery's dead and you could, the boss, you know, and something happens, it's gonna show that the battery was dead. You know, but again, because you're on details that are 12 hours, 16 hours sometimes, and the battery's not going to last. So your battery is going to die, and that does come up, and that does come up in investigations. I've conducted investigations for on-duty instances when I was active, and the body-worn camera wasn't available, and it's because it either malfunctioned or the battery was dead. And then you got to look at why was the battery dead? Did the guy dock it the night before? Yeah, all right, maybe there's something wrong with the battery. Or the guy's been working for freaking 16 hours. He's on a double. You know, he's never got relieved or whatever the case may be. So, you know, and then Michael M., you know, transfer for CDs. What are the unions saying about this?
I think the unions are all in bed with the mayor and the police commissioner and everything else. I mean, even the CEA. I mean, I think all the unions care about is what's good for them. They're all self-centered. They want to make sure that they give their money to whatever political action is going to help them the best. I mean, I don't have a high respect and high regard for the unions. You know, I think that they're all thinking about themselves, and that's it. They don't care. You know, otherwise they would speak up more. They don't. You don't hear anything.
Yeah, that's the thing that's a little unnerving to me is that you don't hear things. I know Monroe from the DEA.
Yeah,
Is that his name?
I think it's close to that.
He went to a detail and had somebody taping him talking to the detectives that were lined up for the detail. And I want to know anybody gets a CD because I'm going to fight it and I'm going to go after them. You're out here doing the God's work and standing foot posts and standing tall. If they're going to break your horns for the things they didn't give out, I want to know about it. Okay, so you yelled and screamed at a detail to post something on X. But let's hear you fight for your detectives that got transferred. I don't see you posting things on X. I don't see you taking ads out in the paper. I don't see you protesting that these detectives were transferred for not having their body-worn camera, that these other detectives were transferred because they were late to a detail. But I want to know personally, me or one of my board members, make sure you contact us. You have my phone number. Okay. And let's see if they get back to them. Like he got back to Marlon, right?
Yeah, right. Yes. He also said he was going to I'll call the chief of department direct. You know, what? I mean, how about talking and not, getting CDs in the first place? How about that? How about doing the prevention instead of you're going to talk to the chief of department after a CD's issued. You're not gonna. Why aren't we talking about the chief of department first? Why he should have been saying in his grandstand, in his X video. I already spoke to the chief of department. He's gonna filter it down to everybody that's underneath him. That well, we're gonna give warning admonishes, or we're gonna be a little bit more caring about the members and understanding the members rather than just give out a CD, blanket CD.
And you don't hear that happening. And this was back in March, right? That she was at a budget hearing, and it came up about officers that weren't being compliant with turning their body-worn camera on the stops, on every single stop, and that she looked into it, and the vast majority of discipline that was being given out was retraining. And she was talking here about, giving out stronger discipline for misconduct. And when you have a repeat offender, then maybe it's not retraining. If you have somebody that is constantly not putting their body-worn camera on, constantly has very late activations, because you can easily have a late activation because it's a fluid situation. You jump out of the car. First thing my first thought is not this, tapping my chest. My first thought is, if I see something that's getting my attention, that I'm going to jump out of the car on a stop, is safety. And I want to make sure I see where that suspect or subject's hands are. I want to see what they're doing, who they're with, what the surrounding area is about. That's my first thought. So there may be a late activation, but it's got to be the exception, not the rule. When it becomes the rule, then okay, then maybe there should be more discipline than just retraining. But I think, honestly, it expanded beyond just those late activations and not filling out stop reports. I think that we have seen that Commissioner Tisch has not accepted recommendations from the trial room and given harsher penalties on certain cases. I think we've seen that more than we've seen in the past. What are your thoughts on that initially, and then we'll get into what Eric and John had said this morning.
Right. So here's the thing: you send your best cop and your best sergeant to a detail, right? Because it's their turn; they're up. They got to go, right? Everybody else you've sent. Now all of a sudden you're going to send, guys that you really keep close to you in the command. They're your go-getters, right? They're your good guys, and they forget their body-worn camera, and they come back and they tell you. Now nobody's conferred with you. These guys just got transferred. How is that? How is it? How do I not, as the commanding officer, let's say it was ESU guys that forgot their body-worn camera and they went to a detail. What if it was people from your best investigators from Candidate Assessment Division, and now they're gone, right? How is that fair? Did you confer with me? No. So how do you know? Just because you assumed because that individual either was late or didn't have their body-worn camera, or even worse, they were late and they didn't have the body-worn camera, that now they're gone. They're gone from my command. They're out without my conferral. And like we spoke about this earlier, the CDs, not everybody gets the same adjudication, because what you do is you evaluate the individual, you evaluate what transpired, what part did they play in it, and then also you take in their history, because if they're good workers, we're not looking to kill people. But this is just like everybody gets to go to the guillotine. This is it. Your head's chopped off. I don't care who you are. That's it. And that to me, when you blanket discipline, you kill morale. You kill morale because you want to scare people into compliance. Well, that's not the way you do it. You train people. You educate people. That's how you bring people up to compliance. Hey, eventually, does somebody not comply enough at times where, all right, they need discipline? Yeah, but we'll get to that. But this
Right.
first, the first time the guy goes to a detail, and now he or she's transferred. That to me is totally off the cuff, and it's totally unnecessary. And just because she said it in front of the city council, does that mean she has to do it? No, you're the police commissioner of the city of New York, and you should evaluate each case separately and give the person their due. Let's not blanket these things and throw everybody into the guillotine and cut their heads off the first time. I mean, who are we, Henry VIII here? I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into morale and everything else, and what the cause of the low morale, and what people really should be doing to try and you know get into you know uh increasing morale. But I agree. And then John, Eric, no, John, at the end of today's show, when he was plugging our
Yeah,
show for us, made a point that was very interesting, and things that make you go, right?
yeah,
Uh,
he did.
it's something that I honestly, preparing for the show, hadn't uh, put a lot of thought into. I did absolutely think about it, but I didn't put as much thought into it as uh, after John's comment. And I should have banged. I should have banged to try to get a clip out of it, just to put it out there. But basically, in essence, what John has said was, when we're talking tonight, let's take into consideration. He's not trying to guide the show and guide the conversation, but listen, we're all a family, and we do discuss our topics with one another offline. He
Mhm.
just happened to, it must have came into his mind when he was thinking about it, and put it out there during the show, knowing that we were both in the chat. And he said that don't put it all on Tish as the police commissioner, because as they've been reporting, there's almost like a coup going on, right, within the
Right.
department, and City Hall, to try and malign Commissioner Tish, who, for all intents and purposes, I have to say, I think is doing as good a job as she can. I think she's up against a lot. I don't think that she's given free reign. I think that she has shown uh, that she's going to stand her ground a little bit more, and definitely more than others in the past. You saw it in the press conference when
In,
she,
in that press conference, in my opinion, she was the only one that showed empathy
yeah,
and really looked like she cared.
yeah, I wasn't even talking about that one yet. In the press conference, where they were talking about um, the laws with the drones and the usage of drones and taking the drones down, and having to have your federal partners are the only ones that can really do that. That we don't have the authority to do that. If we have to mitigate a drone threat in the NYPD, we don't have drone mitigation abilities, and it's something that they're looking to do, and they're working on with legislation. And so, of course, as soon as the word drone came up, Kaz tried to get to the podium, and she basically she said, "No, no, Rebecca's going to take it." Rebecca Wine, who's Deputy Commissioner of Intelligence, is going to take that, because they've been working on the legislation.
You know what Kaz needs? He needs that hat with the propeller on the top. And as soon as they say drones, it should activate, because that's what he was ready to fly in there, right?
Yeah, but she, you know what? She stood her ground as the
Yeah.
police commissioner. This is my press conference, and I'm gonna, you're the deputy mayor. Now, I don't know where deputy mayor in the pecking order stands over a commissioner. I'm not sure in the hierarchy, if because technically the deputy mayor of public safety is not supposed to oversee the police department, even though it's obvious
Right.
that he does. And then again, like you said, in the press conference Monday night, late Monday night, I agree. She was emotional. It was heartfelt. It was genuine. I agree with John and Eric's comments this morning, that I have no issue with her reading off of a prepared statement, because she is reading out facts, and you want to make sure you get the facts out straight. And it's a highly stressful situation. It's late at night. She's been up all day. She has been involved with the case. She's done a walkthrough. It is psychologically damaging to walk through something of that type of carnage. And it's not something that she's used to because she didn't come up in the department in a uniform capacity, right? So it had to affect her. And she handled herself well. And then you saw that he was trying to get her binder for some reason, and she handed it off, but then she saw him try to walk away with it or pass it off, and she made a point of getting it back. So, you know, I see that she's standing her ground more, but the point was that John made that John Shell, when he was the chief of patrol, and Kaz Daughtry, when he was deputy commissioner in the chief of department's office, right? Or the assistant commissioner or deputy commissioner, he was both, right? And then they were transferring people from Queens to Staten Island because a lieutenant didn't call attention for a civilian member who you're not supposed to call attention to. You don't call attention to anyone that was in his rank. And so he transferred this lieutenant to Staten Island. And they were transferring people when they felt disrespected in any way, shape, or form, which was kind of an ego thing because I never made it a big deal if they didn't call attention, if they're not paying attention. If a cop looks at me and doesn't call attention and I make it behind the desk, I say to the sergeant, maybe you tell the cop to take his head out of his ass. But it's not like I never yelled at anybody. You know, I had the strangest reactions where I get to the front of the desk and they panic and they just salute me. And it's like, all right, yeah, you know, because they don't, you know, they feel like, oh my God, I'm going to get in trouble. There are people that are like that, though. You know, I have Inspector, hear me roar. And, you know, it's a, you know, it's just, so I understand his point. And also what he's being told is that, and again, they get a lot of very good information. What he's being told is that that she is rescinding those transfers. That she wasn't. That she wasn't.
She should.
Yeah, that she wasn't the one behind the transfers. Which
I have a problem with that, though. Like I agree with totally. I think John brought up a great point. Like like you said, I didn't think of that. Like I didn't think that this was stuff that was being done behind her back. Stuff that maybe was done with Donlin, same thing, right? That Donlin didn't know about, these transfers, everything that was being done, the promotions that Donlin didn't know about. I totally agree. And then that I saw, you know, that, you know, like she said, you know, maybe these transfers are going to be rescinded or whatever. I have a great issue with that, though, because she is the police commissioner. And even if these transfers are sanctioned by Kaz and sanctioned by Shell, and they're going around Tish's back, I have a serious problem. And I know she's much stronger than that. Like she won't put up with that crap. So I think you know, there should be, you know, she should really step up then at that point if she hasn't already, and told them that this isn't going to continue. So I don't know. I don't know if she's not part of it. I mean, it was great input. It was a great thought. You know, I wasn't thinking that at that angle at all. But if it is, Tish needs to, you know, restructure the ship a little bit and make sure it's running straight. And she's, to me, in my opinion, she's strong enough to do that. She's not going to bow down to those two guys. Yeah, you could see by the binder, right? She basically ripped it out of his hand when he was going to hand it off to somebody else. I suspect in that binder was probably everything that had to do with the case. And I suspect that Kaz wanted that binder. Why? Well, so he could go on Newsmax, so he can go on Fox 5, so he can go on Channel 4, NBC News, and he has all the information readily available, or they're quickly going to make copies of it, and then Kaz has everything. And maybe he wasn't given all that information, you know, but him, and I'm sure he got some of it from Shell, and Shell knew what was going on the whole time. You saw him looking back and stuff. He knew what the whole plan was. But yeah, if in fact like that would never happen under Ray Kelly.
Oh no,
he would have to know about every one of those transfers. We've spoken about it before, how much he micromanaged, and he knew everything. And I said, that was the point. That was, with Kelly, you knew that it was going through that. He knew what was being done underneath him and everything else. So so it's Joe. I think what Joel Ramirez says, all transfers go through her now. She's making the call. So has she been from the beginning? Has she been doing everything from the beginning now, or is she taking it over now? That's the question. Is it gone out of hand? It's a good way to redirect morale, because if it is in fact being done underneath her, and sneakily by Shell or by Kaz, indirectly, then it's a morale buster. It completely is. And I hope she is making the calls, and that she redirects the ship in the upright position.
Yeah, and again, it's about the excessiveness. So what is it doing to rank and file? People don't want to come to work and deal with it. And like you said, you gave a CD and that was it, right? You didn't transfer people. You didn't do this, you didn't do that. And it was the same thing with me. I had people come up to me in my career and say, you gave me my first CD. I'm like, really? I gave you a CD? He goes, yeah. Oh, I totally deserved it. Now they're man enough to say, I totally deserved it. Back then, they were probably, MFing me and saying, lace and this, that, and the other thing, that bum, blah, 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 blah. But he's saying, yeah, I was totally wrong about this, that, and the other thing. I didn't even remember I gave you a CD, because you know why? It must have been warranted, right? It must have been warranted. And if it corrected the behavior, which is what discipline is supposed to be for, it's not supposed to be punitive, really. It's supposed to be to correct a behavior, to correct some kind of, attitude, or whatever the case may be, or condition, right? And if it was corrected, I didn't think about it again, because I always hated the bosses that, and if I found out about it, believe me, I called them on the carpet, where they rode people and rode people and rode people. And it was just, like, let people come to work. Why people can't come to work and work effectively, right? When they're looking over their shoulder, like, what is this guy or girl going to do to me next? Because you're breaking my horns, because, all right, even if I made a legitimate mistake and I got punished for it, let me breathe. Let me make amends. Let me prove myself that I'm better than that, whatever the case may be. And you have Captain and Coke 7-0. Ron was always fair with his CDs. Now, I know who Captain and Coke is. He was actually a delegate in one of my commands. And he knows, you don't crush people. You don't crush people. He said, I very rarely took time. There's other ways of dealing with it, like we talked about, right? There's other ways of dealing with it, And again, if a supervisor, and it's not you as the commanding officer giving the command disciplines most of the time, right? It's other supervisors that are given subordinates or outside commands and outside details, So there's different ways of dealing with it, What are your thoughts on that? And then we'll get into, the whole overall what's been killing morale.
I think the other thing is, as a supervisor, before you give a CD out, you need to step back and take your time and think about it. Often we speak and we say things without thinking. So I can't tell you how many times I'm about to adjudicate a CD, and I would call the issuing supervisor, and it says, "What happened?" He goes, it was this and that, and I said, "All right, what are you looking at? What do you think should happen?" Well, I don't really want to hurt the guy. I just wanted to give him a CD. And so I says, because the supervisor cooled down a little bit and thought about what was going on. So I totally agree. There's other ways to do it. Don't be so fit. Nobody says you got to write. I'm giving you a CD. You don't have to say that right away, right? You can look at the action, think about it. And what I always said, but make sure if you are going to give a CD, inform the cop or the sergeant or whoever you're giving a CD.
That's another thing.
inform them, because a lot of times I'd call somebody in and say, hey, Ron, you got to come down for a command discipline. I got to adjudicate it. And you'd be like, command discipline? What for? What? Nobody even told me I got a command discipline. So that's the other problem. If you're going to give a CD out, be a man or woman enough to tell the person, I'm giving you a command discipline. All right, as bad as you don't want to tell them or whatever, you got to tell them. That's the fair thing to do. And what I always said is, take your time and think about it, because you can also talk to me as the XO or the acting CO or wherever I was and say, hey, this guy did this. What do you think we should do? Oh, well, let's take a look at the history. Great evaluations, really good. Maybe the person's just having a bad day. Maybe there's problems at home. Maybe there's something going on. Let's look a little deeper into this, and maybe a reassignment, maybe a reduction in overtime, maybe something like that could bring that person back to where we had them before. So it's not always about CD, and that's the problem with the management, the basic management training course, the BMOC, right? Cops will F you up. Cops will do this. You cops will F your career. No, that's not true. Cops will help your career. And all you got to do is steer and guide sometimes. Don't look to kill. And that's the other problem. The job always looks to kill.
Yeah.
It's always, the cops are bad. This is bad. You're going to lose your command. You're going to lose this. You're going to get transferred. That's not the way it is. You get good cops. Always push the good cops ahead, and then work with the cops that aren't up to speed, and bring them up to speed. I always said, don't be afraid to take a guy that you were going to give a CD to or did something bad as your driver. Spend the day with me, bro. That's it. Guess what? We'll talk about it, right?
Yeah.
That changes a lot of attitude, right?
Yep. Absolutely. And listen, that's another thing. You talk about the BMOC, the management classes and everything else. When you go and you hear all these stories, and then the union comes in and says, the job's going to screw you, and this, that, and the other thing, and you hear from other people all these things. I wasn't about that, and I used to mentor junior executives because I was around for a long time. I got promoted to captain in 2003, right? So. And in Queens North, I was in Queens North for a long time. You handled a ton of off-duty instances, right? And those can be difficult because you have to make decisions, and a lot of them are career dependent. But also, you deal with other executives in the borough. And I had one executive, and it's kind of funny. I got to the command and the 111. I got to the 111 precinct as the CO, and Chief Pizzuti said, Ron, what do you need? I said, the only thing I need is for you to get rid of my XO. I need my XO transferred because he is causing so much problems with morale because he's crushing people over paperwork. He's crushing people over everything. She transferred him that day. I packed up his desk because he was on vacation. I packed up his desk, put it in the closet, put his boxes in the closet and secured it so nothing was messed with. Took his desk, put it in the muster room. And because the XO and the CO used to share the same office. Threw him out. She goes, I have no other captains for you. I said, I don't need an XO. It's the 111 precinct. I was there as the XO myself. I know the command. I can handle what needs to be done on the XO side, and everything else. And I transferred him. And Captain Coke, if you remember this, right? I transferred him out, and then he was the duty captain. So now he became the midnight duty captain, steady midnight duty captain. And I tried talking to him and telling him, listen, I'll use his first name, Al. Listen, Al, when you're out there, you got to stop hammering these cops. If you find somebody off base, wait till the next day, call the CO and say, hey, listen, I caught Ron and Rob off base. They were supposed to be, they were trying to the 104. They were in the 112 getting something to eat, because there's nothing to eat in the 104, maybe, right? Or whatever the case may be. And he would crush these people. I'm like, you got to talk to the CO because you might be crushing best cop for no reason because he was very petty. And again, you also might have come across somebody that needs discipline because they're always off base. And then getting a CD from an outside command actually helps your case against that derelict officer, so to speak. But don't crush people and go out there and just start writing CDs all throughout the borough because you can. It got to the point where I forbid him. I said, don't even come into my command when you're working. I don't need you to come to 111. Don't scratch my log. Don't bother my people, because he would come and torture them. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
No, you don't need that. I mean, that's ridiculous. Especially, I know when I was when I was CO in the 2-3, and you know, Steve Bonanno was the CO. God rest his soul. I came in and he's like, "So I'm the good guy, and you're going to be the hammer." And, but that, you know, that didn't mean I went out and gave out CDs. That meant if somebody got a CD, I was the one adjudicating it, because I would be guided by what Bonanno wanted. Bonanno, it was his command. So I'm not gonna first of all, I'm not inspections. I'm not the shoe fly, right? Which is the guy, the captain, or that goes out and tries to find all minor violations. No. And you're working in the command with these men and women. I mean, that's the worst thing you could do, is start hammering everybody that's in your command for absolutely no reason. And especially if you're telling me the XO is doing it, then he's a tool bag, and he shouldn't have been doing it. And that was the worst thing you can do. And that's you have to I always said, as the XO, and I think I said it a couple shows ago, as the XO, my job is to get the CO promoted, no matter what.
Absolutely. Yep, I learned that in my first XO position. You're right.
That's my job, and that's what it. And you know what? We've spoken about it before. You know what? That's how you build the relationships. You know, unless you go into PMI and you're kissing knights and everything else, that's a whole other story with you guys. But yeah, that's where you build your relationships. It's you work for a CO, yes, good CO. You work for a good borough commander, a good borough XO, and you build your friendship with those people. So I mean, that's equally important. So you don't need to be a tool bag at all and start hammering cops. It's like, what are you trying to prove? Where are you looking to go? Are you think that that's necessary? Absolutely, unequivocally not. That's not how you manage people. That's how you kill morale, right? So our topic is how in the morale department. That's how you kill morale. You cannot continually degrade people. Remember the old saying, right? Praise in public, admonish privately. Absolutely. And you know what? CDs, everybody knows about CDs, and you can't just drive around giving out CDs to everybody and think how's that guy sleep at night? How do you go home or back to the command and say, oh, I did a great job. I just gave out 3 CDs because guys were coming late to their job. One guy didn't put himself over the radio. And that's the same guy that asked for the sandwich. Hey, can you go get me a salami sandwich? And then the cops are like, oh, 2, sure, boss.
Yeah, very few people got me food. Very few people, because you just never knew. Sometimes you thought people liked you and they didn't like you. Like we got somebody else from the 111, Logic's Finest, in here, and I'm don't think I remember who Logic Finest is. DM me privately on X, Logic's Finest. Let me know who you are, so I know who I'm talking to in the chat. I appreciate the kind words for both myself and for Rob, from those who have worked with us in the past. And listen, we're saying these things, and we're not saying them to pump ourselves up and build ourselves up. We have nothing, zero to gain by telling you our experiences on what we used to do with discipline, telling our stories. It's good that they're being validated in the comments by former coworkers of ours, in here, so people don't think that we're full of shit and just trying to say, oh yeah, we were the best thing since sliced bread. Because I wasn't. Because listen, I one thing that Captain and Coke said was, I always took my time with the CDs, and that's true. Because like you said, I never struck while the iron was hot. If I gave somebody a CD, I must have been pissed, right? Because I didn't do it often, right? And one of my biggest things was if I caught somebody sleeping, because it's such a safety issue. that lit a fire in me, because you put yourselves in harm's way. And but I wouldn't adjudicate those CDs, because I didn't want it to be personal. I'll hand out
Yeah.
the CD, but I'm not going to adjudicate the CD. You know, uh,
No,
yeah.
real quick comment. Arnie V, right? He talks about I think it was Eddie Edwards. That guy was a complete and utter tool bag. He would just give out CDs like left and right. Like he almost enjoyed it. It was like it was almost like, he had a quota for every day, and he would just go around giving out CDs. Worst guy. And
Oh,
I don't think he even ever got promoted or anything else, and thank God he didn't. But that guy was exactly the type of guy that you wouldn't want, and you would have told Bazzuti, and I would have told anybody else, please take this person away from me, because that's a morale buster. That's the type of guy that doesn't deserve to be a captain. If you want to do that, you want to be a hammer, go find some private go to IEB or go somewhere else where you can do investigations, and whatever, but don't go around hitting the Port Patrol guys that are, for this bullshit green, socks or whatever, white sock stuff, or no hat and stuff. There's a lot, there's a lot. And I even Salerno, everybody brings up
oh,
Salerno.
oh my
I
God!
think
He would come into your
QC
command.
Beast just brought him up. So
He would come into your command while you were there, which was another taboo thing. Like, if you had for those of you who don't know, when you're the duty captain, right, or the duty inspector. Well, duty inspector is a little different, but if you're the duty captain, you would find out who's working, and if those commands are working, they're covered. I don't have to respond unless the captain or inspector needs help with something that's going on, if it's a big incident, right? I don't have to go there, and I don't have to scratch the log, which is going to inspect the log and inspect the prisoners. The CO or the XO is working. So if you have an executive working in your command, it's like taboo. You don't walk into that command. And if you walk in and they weren't on the schedule, and they go, oh, the CO's in the back, you go in, you're not going to go, hey, Rob, I'm sorry, you weren't on the schedule. Do you mind if I scratch a log since I'm here, so I can get credit for it?
But with that, I would scratch the command log. I would never touch the interrupted patrol log, because the rule was that it's his command or her command, and who's ever in that command, that's their responsibility. He might have extra people in the command. I have nothing to do. And you're right. I would always pay the respect of that. If soon as I said the boss said, hey, inspector's in the back or whatever. Okay, I go to the back. Inspector, how you doing? I'm just checking in or whatever. Okay, good, no problem. I didn't see you were doing it unannounced,
Right.
right? I mean, it wasn't on the normal schedule, so hey, yeah, that was it. And you know what? I just want to throw one other name out. Michael Weiss. Michael Weiss was another hammer that was so wrong. So
Oh,
he was a morale killer. The guy would come. I was in the borough, and he was just a nasty man. Would go out, and I would have to. When he left the borough, I was the borough admin lieutenant. So I go. He was an inspector. I go, Inspector, you're going out? Nah, a little while. He'd come out. I'm going out on patrol. I said, oh, where you going, boss? Just so just checking out. I'm going to the 4-3 and the 4-4. I'm on the speed dial. Hey, he's coming your way. Tighten it up, man. Tighten it up,
yeah.
So
He would write people for not having two pens in the pencil holder back in the
I
day.
know.
You know?
I don't know.
Boy. Yeah, it's just there's people that are just, it's on a total power trip. And it's just, those are the ones that usually, were incompetent, weren't very involved as they went up the ranks. Like I always say, if you have a bad cop, they're going to be a terrible sergeant, they're going to be a horrible lieutenant, and they're going to be a complete clusterfuck as an executive.
Yeah. No, shout out to Amazing Ant. Thank you, Chief Rob. That's an old school and mature. Much appreciated. Thank you, Amazing. A good friend of the unfiltered family, right? She really is. So I appreciate you. Appreciate your comment. But yeah, I mean, that's how you kill morale. That's how you do it. And now the thing is that's why I really like to get to the bottom of if it's coming from, if it's coming from Tish, or is it coming from Shell? Is it coming from Kaz? Because that's a morale booster. And now is no time with the way the department's in, loss of personnel, people retiring, recruitment issues. Now's not the time to be hammering people and killing morale even more. They need to find a way to raise morale so that you will get people like us that recommend the job to their family, to their friends. But right now, I mean, no way. I said to my stepson the other day, I said, why don't you go to NYPD? And he's heard enough of me talk about it, right? And I've told him, no way, don't go, don't do it. And now I said, you know what? Why don't you try? And he's like, no way. Everything you said about it is no way I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And he's right, absolutely, 100%. There's no right now. I can't honestly tell somebody to go there to the NYPD. It's almost like, and then like I said earlier, it's the internal pressures that are going to kill you. It's the internal pressures you're gonna feel about it, because you can deal with the external ones. You can work around the external ones, but the internal pressure, that's bad, because you're gonna you know what? At the beginning of your tour, you see the sergeant, the captain or whoever who's trying to hammer you, and then at the end of the tour, you're gonna see them, and you might see them in the middle tour. But the external pressures, an arrest, okay, I make an arrest and the guy gets out. I did my job. That's an external thing. All right. I got to take 4 guys to take somebody down because I don't want to put my knee on their back. That's an external pressure I can work around. But if somebody's following me and hammering me every other day, that's not the night. What can you do about that? There's no way you can do that. You can't stop that guy, right? Or gal that's going after you. So that's when morale goes right down the shitter.
Yep. Artie, your younger brother's going through the process. He's looking to get in the August class. Best of luck. Listen, hopefully, we need people to come in, and we need people to change the culture of the job. And there needs to be, change up top. We've talked about it. Amazing and pretty funny. 1025B, drinking in public. Long time since I wrote a summons. Is that right? But yeah. But yeah, getting ready for the show, right? You came across some things about what causes low morale, right? Let's look at them and see how many of them apply to the current upper echelon of the NYPD, right? What causes low employee morale? So not specifically the NYPD, not specifically police, right? The way we work is changing. While some of these changes, like flexible schedules and automation tools, all that stuff, right? But the common reasons include lack of recognition. When contributions go unnoticed, motivation declines. Celebrating achievement and implementing recognition programs signal to employees that they're valued. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, what? Who does that? That's funny, right? Because when I looked up this website, right, it had nothing to do with the NYPD.
No,
it was nothing to do. But every one of those touches on what's happening within the NYPD, right? So, I mean, lack of recognition. How many times have you done a great job and never heard of it? I mean, that's one thing I always say about ESU was always there was always recognition for the job. And I would often at the end of the job, John Diadamo would say, hey, can you say a few words to the SRG guys, the strategic response group guys that helped on this job? And I would say, absolutely, John, because you know what? They're just as important to the mission as was the ESU guys. So I would go over and thank them for their work too, and give them kudos for what they did. But if a patrol guy, if they got there and they secured the scene, the perimeter quickly and effectively, like put people around the back, I would tell them the same thing. Great job. But overall, there's a complete lack of recognition to everybody else. A guy that does their job every day, a guy and girl that go out there and answer radio runs, there's a lack of recognition, right? They don't get it.
And I agree with you 100%. Now, as a commanding officer, I always made sure that, like, I ordered my lieutenants, like I would have my COs meetings, and I would not have a COs meeting every payday. I wouldn't have a payday meeting just for the sake of having a payday meeting. I would make notes. I'd address things as they came up. I put things down that I wanted to get out there. And every few paydays, I would have a payday meeting, right? But one of the things that I would talk to platoon commanders about, I would be like, why haven't I seen anybody on your platoon submitted for department recognition? There's been some great collars. There's been some great police work. There was a life saved, whatever the case may be. Why haven't they been written up? Because I don't believe that cops should write themselves up. I think that's total bullshit. That's self-recognition. It's not department recognition. Department recognition means that someone that represents the department is recognizing the good hard work that you're doing. So your sergeant or your lieutenant should be writing you up. Okay? So
just to jump on that real quick. So I've seen it where a guy wrote something up and he embellished it. So there's no reason to embellish it. All you can do is, I'm at such and such a time I made a gun arrest and that's it. The arrest of such and such. Let the supervisor investigate it and look at the online booking sheet, look at the unusual occurrence report if there was, and that's it. Give them the department recognition that they deserve. You don't need to write that whole narrative that if there's some sort of conflicting statement that the defense attorney is going to bring up. So, but yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you that should be done by the supervisor or somebody in a rank that sees that and understands it, because that's better. That's a whole better thing, rather than me bringing Rob Lukesh is bringing to Inspector Layson. Here's my recognitions that I'm asking you to read and find. No, you want the recognition, right? That's what you want. You want somebody to say, hey, you know what, Rob, you did a great job. I'm writing up for a meritorious. I'm writing up for excellent police duty, accommodation, whatever the case may be.
Right. I had a scramble when I was studying for the sergeant's test to go through my collars and write myself up. And that annoyed the shit out of me. So as soon as I was a sergeant, I would write up my cops. And I had a little thing that I would do. Like if it was your first medal, I would actually present you with that medal. Like I would not, once I wrote it up and it got approved by the board, I would actually present you with the EPD or the MPD. And every now and then, like I would take one off of my rack, right? And hand it to, I remember I had one cop that told me that I presented him with his first EPD and I took it off of mine. It's a piece of, metal plastic on your thing, right? But it meant something to him that he actually went out and bought another one and put that in his safe.
Yeah.
Because it meant something to him that he was acknowledged by his supervisor and that I made it personal to him, right? But acknowledgement, I would make them quarterly. Okay, good. You write me a 49, right? A report telling me why there's nobody in your platoon that deserves any things. Or I want to see that they're being written up. And listen, the lieutenant doesn't have to do it. Tell your sergeants to do it. And back, I was fortunate enough when I was a commanding officer, we had enough forces that you could keep a guy in administrative to do this crap. I was fortunate. Nowadays, I understand it's not that they're not as fortunate, right? But it's not just that, right? As a CO, I always used my CO's credit card and made sure that I always did a recognition dinner for my auxiliaries, the volunteers, right? Because it's not just about the uniform, guys. Just like you said, we talked about, Amazing Nancy. She said before that, the civilians mean something. You're not just a civilian. You're part of the family. You're part of the team. You're part of to help, even whether you're the community or whether you work in the command. But the auxiliaries are people from your community that come and put on a uniform and do it for free. They go out there and represent the NYPD and put an omnipresence to the eyes and the ears. So you got to recognize these people. I also learned something from, Chief McCarthy, Brian McCarthy, when he was the XO of the Patrol Services Bureau. I said this in the past on the other podcast. He would write on the back of the 49 and send it back down. Good job, whatever, a little note stuck in my head. I appreciated that. My cops appreciated that. So I started writing notes to cops that would do a good job, or bosses, whatever. And I got such positive feedback from that from so many people. And then I expanded on it a little bit. I was able to get some trinkets. I have NYPD, Parker pens that I would give out. And then when I was the borough commander in Housing Bronx, Queens, I had my challenge coin made up that you only got presented. You couldn't buy them. You couldn't trade them. It had to be presented to you. Either you were in my immediate staff and you got one presented to you, or you did something exceptional, and I called you into the borough and I presented you with one. You know, so
Yeah, Tony Izzo used to do something too, because when I was the admin lieutenant, Tony Izzo was the XO.
he used to put the plastic down when you go to see him, right?
It wasn't that bad, I don't think. But he used to actually do a on department letterhead, right? The actual city of New York police department letterhead. He would have one of our clerical officers type up the whole letter and sign it himself and send it to the officer's command so that they had it. I mean, a nice letter, you know. It was he did it. It did it nicely, you know. So that raises morale. That's a morale booster. That's recognition that you need to have.
Yeah, 100%. Let's go the next one. Poor work-life balance. Burnout is real, and it can be costly. A culture that encourages taking PTO, personal time off, I'm going to guess, to recharge and establishing boundaries like do not disturb hours can help employees do their best work. Wow. So now you get away from the discipline. Now we talked about retention also, right? And morale and leading to poor retention. Poor work-life balance. Burnout is real. First words in here. Again, this has nothing to do with the NYPD. This is a generic low employee morale, leadership slide, right? How does that not fit into what's going on with the NYPD with these people being pounded over the head with overtime and forced into doing all these overtimes?
Yeah. No, I mean, you get no time for home, right? No time to get home, no time to take care of things. Think about their home life, right? Their spouses never see them. Question why you working so much. Question why you can't have off on the kid's birthday, which is in the middle of the week, and normally you would have off, but now you're working a 12-hour shift. I mean, there's so much, so many factors here. Think about it. You're ready to go home, and the next thing you know what? I'm a body short for the all out, and I got to send you. I had plans. Guess what? You got to cancel those plans. But yeah, I mean, rest is important. Rest is important, and it helps you function properly, right? And without the lack of rest and the ability to refresh yourself, yeah, that's going to push you off the job too. When you're able to do it, right? It's going to be like, I can't take it anymore. I need to literally like rest and relax. It's just I'm being pushed down, and all the time I have to work, and that's not good either. So yeah, that fits right in also.
Yeah, it's amazing how it fits in because it's just it comes to the whole idea that you're not taking into consideration the humanity of who we're dealing with, right? Cops are human. Cops need time to decompress. Cops need time to relax. Cops need time to be with their family, to be with their friends, to be by themselves. I used to come home sometimes and not want to be bothered. I just need a little time. I just need a little time to just woosha, right? To just
Yeah,
to let it all out, to drain it, to just get into a headspace to be okay, right?
to not
And
think of anything, right? Just to be.
that's it. Just blank out. I don't want to think about work. I don't want to think about the kids. I don't want to think about the wife. I don't want to think about anything. I don't want to think. Whether that means I'm going to sit in front of the TV and with a blank stare and probably not even know what the hell I'm watching, or whatever the case may be. But when you have that poor work-life balance, it carries over on both sides. And if you're not having a good home life, you're not going to have a good work life. If you're not having a good work life, you're not going to have a good home life. So these are things that are very important. These are things that are very important. I just want to go back real quick. HFL. I want to acknowledge, Salerno was Jaffe's henchman. HFL. For those who aren't familiar, I'm going to bet pennies over dollars, housing for life. And it looks like a housing car in his, as his picture. So I just wanted to throw that one out there. But yeah, anything
Just real quick, Jaffe, is that Jaffe? Jaffe, she had a lot of hatchet men, right? She had she used a lot of hatchet men to do her dirty work. So I totally agree with him there. So
yeah.
but then so you want to go into what, weak leadership? I want to give a shout out there, Ron, to
Who's that?
Rafael Martinez, right?
Oh,
29.
yeah. I'm a little behind.
Yeah.
Inspector in chief, I had a graffiti collar and special category missing that I found. I wrote the department recognitions. When the finest message came down, my name was on it. The SOL told me he lost it. I never wrote one again. I'm thinking your name wasn't on it.
Yeah. No, I mean, why would you, right? At that point, first of all, you shouldn't have had to write it up
No,
yourself.
no.
Yeah, that's the first thing. Absolutely, Raphael. And thank you for what are we drinking? Diet Coke and red licorice. How about that?
There's my Diet Coke.
All right, there you go. Thank you, Raphael. But I totally agree. You know, that should not have been something you had to write. You know, and that's what we're talking about. That should have been you know, that should have been written by somebody else. And your special operations lieutenant, your SOL, he should have found that, or she should have found that. If it was lost, guess what? I found it, and we're resubmitting it. You know, that's what true leadership is. Take it, you know, take it to the next step. Somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, I put in for department recognition, and it didn't come up on the you know, through the personnel orders. I didn't see it. What's going on? You know, oh, let me find out. You know, let me see. All right, we don't have it. Guess what? It's a friggin' form. Rewrite it, man. Do the right thing for your cops. Come on.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So weak leadership. Poor leadership accounts for many bad experiences at work. Transparent leadership encourages open and honest communication and supports a value-based culture. Oh my God, we don't have enough time with this one.
No, I think we hit that already.
Yeah, I think we did. You know, it's just it's the leadership today. I don't think, no matter how much they say it, is not truly out for the rank and file. They're not. They're out for themselves, self promotion, self recognition, making their own little videos. We're going to get into a little bit of that in a little bit, right? We actually got to move it on, but
Here's my thought with leadership: passing a promotion exam does not make you a leader.
yeah, we talked about that. We had that
Yep.
in our leadership, you know, frontline leadership podcast that we did. So yeah, limited career growth. When they don't see advancement opportunities, they may look for them elsewhere. Help them envision the future with structured career paths,
Yeah, right.
development opportunities, and regular conversations. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh wait, where's the sentence that says
Nepotism?
nepotism and yeah, no,
Cronyism.
I
Yeah.
don't see nepotism and cronyism in there.
No,
I don't
no.
see it in there. Yeah, that is unbelievably related to
Wait,
the
you know what it should say?
NYPD.
It should say also at the end, and no rocket fuel. You got to earn it.
It just really.
It's sad. It's sad because that's a killer right there. When you see, you know, people getting promoted that don't deserve it, when you don't
100%.
and you don't know how to get, how to get on the grid, right? We've spoken about the grid, the promotion grid. How do I get on it? Telling people when they're taken off of it. I mean, there's a lot to go with that grid, but yeah, that that's a big career killer right there. That's a big
Yeah.
career killer
And
because everybody looks for that. Everybody wants to move up, you know. So, and you know what? Even what I always said, even the cop that stays on patrol for 20 years, God bless him or her. because you know what? They deserve a promotion too. They deserve it because they've been out there, they've done it, they've done their job, and they've done it. If they've lasted 20 years, they've done it exemplary to me, in my opinion. They've done a great job, and they deserve something too.
Yeah, it's just, listen, we just did the show on the Donlin lawsuit, and we talked about it. And it was clearly laid out in there that the right people weren't getting promoted. People that were getting promoted by merit were being taken off the list and put cronies and nepotism and who knows who on these promotion lists, and pushed through with the literal rubber stamp. So yeah. And then lastly, lack of psychological safety. Create a respectful workplace where people feel supported by celebrating inclusion and encouraging diverse perspectives. So if you don't agree with my perspective, I shouldn't take it personal?
That's what they're saying.
Listen, I always listened to everybody. I said it in the past, if I was the smartest man in the room, get out of the room. I always tried to surround myself with very intelligent people. I always took the input of the people with the boots on the ground whenever I implemented any kind of plan. It's just you have to. Yeah, you have to respect people, respect their input, take their input into consideration. You're the ultimate say because you're the boss, but take their input into consideration when making your final decision. And Doreen McCormick, 1999 to the podcast. Thank you both for all you're doing. Absolutely love this show. Thank you so much, Doreen. We really appreciate that support. We appreciate the support of everybody in the chat. Chat's very active today. We love to see the chat. We love to see the chat engaged with us and engaged with the topic that we're talking about at the time. So that shows us that we may be doing something right because we're keeping you engaged, and that's our goal. So we're an hour and 30 minutes into it. So let's hit the like, share, and subscribe. Let's get the algorithm going for the last half hour or so. We're going to go on to another, I'm going to toss it right back to Rob. Got thrown off by Doreen's generosity to finish out this topic. And then we're going to move on and talk a little bit about the tragic incident that happened on Monday. So, Rob, you want to close out this thing, and then we'll just real quick, put up the one thing we have for what they say to use to boost morale. I think we've probably covered it without even reading it.
All right. No, I agree. Thanks for the Diet Coke and licorice.
Now I gotta buy Twizzlers for next week.
Totally agree about how you talked about that lack of psychological safety. Yes. Why wouldn't you want more input from everybody? Why wouldn't you want it? You know what? I don't have all the answers. All right. There's no magical box when you get promoted. Some people say that you go up to the 14th floor and you open this gold box and you get all the knowledge and wisdom, because some of the chiefs, they stupidly act like that. But no, what you do is you ask everybody what's their opinion, and then you've answered the questions, and you know what? That puts everybody on the same page because everybody's heard out and they know your reasoning, and they might have a better, believe me, in the ESU. I mean, I know I always get on that topic, but hey, those guys are top of the game, right? The guys and girls in ESU. And if I said something and they're like, no way, boss, that's not going to work. You know what? They were right. And I took it as that. I learned from it. I need to learn that, I'm not just because I got promoted a couple of times and I had 3 Saturdays where I did well. That doesn't mean I know it all, and I'm willing to learn. That's what you want to do. You learn. And you know what? The next time, maybe somebody doesn't bring it up, but you learn from the last time that somebody else brought up. Hey, it's good. And again, get everybody on the same page so they know what the mission is, and then you can execute it properly. But yeah, absolutely. There's no way you should not take everybody's opinion. That's great that's great leadership, is understanding what everybody's saying, and then obviously, like you said, all right, ultimately my decision, and I'll take responsibility for it too then, because
Yeah,
now we have everything. So
Anthony DiMaggio makes a good point here. Democratic leadership is the best non-emergencies in non-emergency situations, especially when you have sharp cops. That's 100% true.
yeah,
There
absolutely.
are times in the
Yeah.
heat of the moment, like on Monday, when you have to be the boss, you have to take control, you have to give immediate, sharp, and clear and concise directions to accomplish a mission. There's no time for input. I'm the boss.
No.
This is what needs to be done. Get it done now.
Well, also in emergency situations, our cops should be acting on training
Right.
and knowledge. That's what they need to do. All right. That's
We're
not
gonna get.
time to dispute. That's the time
I,
to
thi-
take it out. But in
think we'll get into
non-emergency
that.
situations,
I think
take
we'll
the
get into
time.
that a little bit more next week.
Uh,
Think a little bit more next week. Next week, we're going to have a great topic for you. We're going to talk about something that's going to be a bit controversial. People aren't really going to like what they hear, but it's the reality of policing in this modern day. And we'll get into that maybe a little bit more later. If not, stay tuned for the thumbnail for next week. So let's just move on real quick because it is getting late. To boost morale, focus on creating a positive and supportive environment where individuals feel valued, connected, and motivated. This can be achieved through open communication, recognition of achievements, providing opportunities for growth, and fostering a sense of purpose and belonging. We covered it. We covered it all. I don't think there's really. You have anything to add to that one, Rob?
no, I think we've said it. That's exactly that's, as Eric would say, is spot on right there. So that's it. It's important, So
All right. So let's talk a little bit about, and we're not going to get into the response. We'll talk about that at a later date, about the response of the NYPD and some of the things that happened on Monday. Rob and I both discussed it. We don't think that right now is the right time. Let's get through tomorrow and let a little more information maybe come out. But let's just talk about. We want to talk about and maybe give our perspective on some of the things that are being discussed out in the media as well as on social media. And so, as everybody knows, on Monday, we had a maniac drive in from Las Vegas and double park his car, walk into the building, the NFL building, and kill our police officer Islam and 4 others, and gravely injure one person, and then take his own life. But let's talk about a couple of things that have been out there, right? So the first thing that comes out, while it's pretty much still an active scene, right, is a piece of the video surveillance of him walking in the quad, which is like just an open area between the street and the front door of the building, because the building is set back a little bit, right? A lot of people, Rob, here have been talking about, because of the diminished police force, force, that this guy was able to walk freely in New York City with an assault rifle. And I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way. I think that if we had 10,000 more cops, that this guy was most likely going to be able to get into this building in the same manner and the same amount of time as he did in this situation. And before I go to you, I'm gonna zoom out a little bit on this picture, and I'm gonna explain, my perspective right there. Then I'll toss it to you, Rob, because here is a zoomed out portion which a lot of people didn't see, And this is the quad in front of the building. This is 3rd Avenue, right? Was it 3rd Avenue? Right?
Park Avenue, right?
Park Avenue, right? And I believe from other views that I've seen, this was his car where I have the red circle. He double parked the car, got out, and just walked this distance. How long do you really think that took?
Yeah.
30 seconds, right? So even if there was a cop driving by, probably didn't see him. If there were foot posts, what are the chances the foot post is going to be right there, right at that time? So I disagree with the narrative that's being pushed around that you are allowing this type of behavior, whatever you want to call it, that someone could walk freely. Now, he walked with purpose. He walked directly and purposefully right into the building. He didn't malinga. He wasn't walking around. You can see on the left lower corner here, somebody sitting there, probably smoking a cigarette or whatever the case may be, totally on his phone, totally oblivious that this guy walked right past him. Could have been the first victim right there because he's not aware of his own surroundings, right? And then he walks into the building and shoots our officer. And now just to give you an overhead view. So here's an overhead view. Now that's not his car. This is just an overhead view I got from online. And there's Park Avenue, there's the quad, there's the front of the building. So to double park there and walk right in, I don't see that as, the issue that people are making it out to be, that people can walk freely around the city because we are at a lower number of cops with long guns. What's your take on that?
So if you pull up at any location, right, and you double park your car, yeah, it raises flags if you're on a foot post or whatever. And what are you gonna do? You slowly walk over to it, right? If a guy gets out and starts walking up to the building, pay no mind. He's got the gun bladed to his side. It's not like he's holding a gun up like in the ready position. So it doesn't raise any real suspicions, right? It's some people, you're going to say people on the left of him don't even see that gun, right? And what happens is, what are most people doing? Like that guy in the lower corner that you just said, they're on their phones. They're looking on their phones. I remember during this incident, Fox News had a person that was going home that worked for the news. He said he had his headset in, listening to music on his iPhone, and didn't even hear the shots. He didn't hear shots. He just saw the commotion later on, all the cops running in there. So everybody's on the phone. Everybody's listening to the music. People driving in the car, looking at their Waze apps and everything else. So everybody has their heads in their phones, and they're not paying mind to that. I mean, this is Park Avenue. You don't expect this at all. So the 20 seconds, 30 seconds that he took to get from his car to there, I can see how he can completely be unnoticed. Completely. And I don't know if a police officer down the block would have saw that. I don't know if a traffic agent pulled up behind him to write a double parker, would have saw that. So I agree with you. I think that the time that he took and the probably, the steps that he took to get into that building was fast and quick, and it could definitely gone unnoticed by anybody that was there.
Agree with you 100%, Rob. So that's just one of the things that was just blaring to me, right? Other things, people automatically jumped on the terrorism angle and things like that. Now, this is a form of domestic terrorism. Don't get me wrong. But automatically, they were jumping on either pro-Palestinian or Islamic terrorism. I'm not even going to get into CNN saying it was possibly a male white.
Well, the bad thing about CNN was actually John Miller.
Yeah, that
So,
I was honestly totally surprised by that. You know, that I don't know where that one came from. Um, I still shake my head on that. But so people were all over social media, and they were speaking like it's what I can't stand is when people are speaking like it's fact when they're making complete assumptions.
right.
Nobody knew what was going on yet. Nobody had any idea what was going on. This picture circulated very quickly, very quickly. So you see him walking in. You can't really make out what ethnicity he may be. And when you look at his other photos, you see that, he doesn't look exactly like this, with his hair the way it is. But he's also been driving for 3 days from Vegas,
Right.
right? So that's another thing that hit me. What was your?
Well, I mean, people said, how could he have driven, 3 days from Las Vegas? I mean, I drive up and down from New York to Florida a lot. I mean, it takes me 24 hours sometimes. I mean, nobody's tracking me. So, I mean, I don't see, the oddity of that. I mean, people drive all over this country, if they don't trust the airlines or they don't they don't want to fly, that's what happens, and I mean, you could say that, he came to New York. Why do I think he came to New York? Because this is what he wanted. He wanted the notoriety. He wanted the spotlight. I mean, he could have done this in any city along the route. But you know what? This is the epic center of the country, New York. So I mean, the financial capital of the world. So what better place to do that? And obviously, it appears that he had some intent, specifically to that building. Relative to the tenants in that building. So he was on a mission. And you know what? When a perpetrator, a domestic terrorist, is on a mission, unless you have good intel, unless somebody's telling you there's a problem, you have to have suspicion. So, and you have to have that intel that's going to tell you where he's going and try to intercept it. Otherwise, it's extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult to stop.
Yeah, yeah. We got, I know there's things we want to get to, but something that bothered me a little bit, and I want to get your take on it, is that shortly after, and we'll get into some of the news coverage, right? But shortly after the situation was deemed neutralized, where the perpetrator was found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound on the 33rd floor. Shortly thereafter, online, his identification was leaked. A picture of his identification that was on his person was leaked out to social media. I find this very problematic. Now, I'm all for transparency. The NYPD did not make this an official release. This was released through social media, whether it was leaked to the media, whether it was leaked to friends off the scene, whatever the case may be. And I have a problem with this because in a situation like this, you have, by knowing his identity as a law enforcement agency, you have a tactical advantage because now you could do a deep dive into this person's contacts. You don't know if he was alone. You don't know if he was working with anybody else. Going through his social media, going through whatever, even affecting search warrants prior to releasing his name. So very rarely do you release the name of a perpetrator in a situation like this until you've had an opportunity, because you don't want to happen what happened. Everybody started doing their own investigations into him, and other videos were leaking. That's when the video of him playing football came out, and I said, football player, NFL building, there might be a connection there. And I put that out on our personal chat that we were talking about, because we, as the Finest Unfiltered, it was mentioned on John's show today and Eric's show, made a decision early on that we're not going to post anything, that we're going to wait until we can get some more facts before we start making any postings on this situation. We monitored it amongst ourselves. We were sharing things amongst ourselves. We were conversing amongst ourselves, but we weren't posting anything out as a Finest Unfiltered network on any of the shows. The first official thing, I guess, was on Sal's show on Tuesday, right? Yesterday. But what is your opinion on this being leaked out?
I would just, caution the men and women that are working, that have access to this, and who they send it to. Like like you and I were talking offline. Just before I retired, I was at a suspicious package, a bomb job, as they would say, in Lower Manhattan, over by the World Trade Center. And operations wanted me to take a picture of it and send it to them, because there's a whole information packet that they send out to all the chiefs and above in the morning. So I think they wanted a picture of it. And I was a little hesitant in the beginning, because you know who you send it to, but obviously they're asking for it, so I sent it. And then I thought to myself, I'm sending it to operations. There's a lot of people that work in operations. Who else is looking at that? Who else is sending it out? Is it compromising any other type of investigation? Is there something to this? So does the bomb squad even want me to really send out that information? Because does that compromise their operation? So I think you just got to be careful where you send this. If it's sent out on personal phones and things like that, don't forget there's a electronic thumbprint of everything you do, and the department can get that, if they want to. But it's just important to keep it to yourselves. And absolutely, can this compromise an investigation? Yeah. Was there other people working with him? I mean, did they find out that you put that on social media, and other people that were doing it with him find out that he took his own life? What does that exacerbate their mission? Does it could compromise an investigation later on for other things that was going on? So I mean, there's great great problems putting that out there, and you just have to be very cautious when you do that. So
Yeah. I mean, crime scene evidence. It's to me, it's not acceptable. I understand you want to get things out there, you want to help, whatever the case may be. I saw another part, because there was so many. Listen, cameras are everywhere. Social media is running live everywhere. People were doing lives everywhere, right? I saw two cops on the corner with a gaggle of photographers and media people around them, and they both had their department phones out, letting them take pictures. I guess I'm going to assume, and I hate to assume, right? Because you're making an ass out of you and me, mostly myself, right? But I'm going to assume that they were letting them take pictures of the job rundown, of the actual job. Again, why?
yeah.
Why? What's the benefit? What's the benefit?
No, I mean, if they're handing out pictures of him walking in with the for identification purposes like that, that got spread out quickly, then I understand that, sharing that. But there's other things that could compromise the investigation.
And Doreen's asking about the 33rd floor. I think it's been established that he just, that woman, God was on her side. She walked out of the elevator when it walked up, and he didn't notice her. He ignored her, whatever the case may be. He was tunnel visioned. She walked past him unscathed. He jumped on that elevator. That elevator went up to the 33rd floor. It's believed completely from everything that I've heard so far from the investigative end is that he got on the wrong elevator bank. From the notes that were found on his person that were also leaked, he was intending to go to the NFL on the 5th floor.
Just so like if you go to and I keep saying the World Trade Tower, or if there's certain barcodes that the security usually gives you, and you can scan that, and that gives you access to the particular elevator. And some elevators will go from the first floor all the way up to the 30th floor, and then 32, 31, all the way up. So they skip, multiple floors to get you up to your floor faster. So I'm going to assume that that girl, you're very lucky. She comes out, and that's the first elevator he has access to. And I believe the security guard did an amazing job, right? I'm hearing that he was shot, and while he's shot, he tries to recall all the elevators down to the first floor so nobody can go up. But I don't think he's able to do that. But yeah, so some of those elevators, they skip multiple floors to get you up to the location faster, and it's based on usually what the security guard at the building give you, what access you have. So
our friend Leroy Jenkins is here. He's a little late to the show. You missed. You have to go back and watch the first almost 2 hours now, Leroy. We talked about a lot today, and now we're talking a little bit about Monday's incident. So we talked originally, paid tribute to our fallen officer, spoke about discipline and morale on the job, and now we're discussing some of the issues that we saw with the incident that happened on Monday. Another leak, right? Another leak. It was a picture, and then you see the shadow there of the cop taking the picture of the gun. Like you said, did somebody ask for that picture? Probably operations or somebody, but it was leaked. And again, that's evidence right there. And leaking out evidence could cause problems. Another part of this, and we're just under 2 hours into it. So again, hit the like, share, and subscribe button, and get the algorithm going. Leroy's asking about females and males being separated at the viewing. Is not an EEO issue. No, it's not. It's a religious accommodation. We discussed that also at the beginning of the show. But again, like everything else, it turns political, right? So want to quickly
yeah, I mean, can we touch base on our illustrious mayor at the time that actually shows up at the scene with a night that's his he's doing a video, right? So he's already been briefed probably by the PC. I think he met up with Kaz and Shell, and now he says that the scene is secure, right? There's no additional perpetrators that they're looking for, and that he's on his way to the hospital, which I mean that's when he first shows up. He shows up in a heavy vest. That heavy vest actually is an old ESU vest. They're outdated. We don't use them. We haven't used them. I think I may have gotten one when I first got an ESU in 2003. I think I got one of those, and we quickly got new ones because after a while the material degrades, and you're not supposed to keep it. I think a life span of usually about 5 years for those vests. So the only thing I could say is that has really big pockets on that. So I'm going to assume that 7 phones can fit on that vest. There can be 7 phones. I don't know if he'll know which one's ringing, but he can definitely fit 7 phones in there. I tell you, when I got to see that, I was appalled because if our mayor has to go into the hot zone, right? So there's 3 zones: hot zone, warm zone, cold zone. Okay. If that mayor has to put on a heavy vest and go into the hot zone, we're having a really, really bad day. So there's that's a showman's piece. That's all that is. That has, I don't know. There's no reason for him to wear that. And you know what? And we'll talk about it, I think, next week. But the command post is not in the hot zone, so you don't need to wear a heavy vest like that. That is stupidity. That's a photo op. That's all that is. Yeah,
100%.
exactly. Like TC says right there, it's a clown show. That's exactly what that is.
And if you remember on the tragic events of 9/11, right? Bernie Kerik ushering Mayor Giuliani away from the World Trade Center up to the old police academy,
Right.
and establishing a command center on 23rd Street.
Yeah.
Right? So,
and if you can go back to the other photo, right? So the problem with the last photo you had up there when he's standing there is that he has a police officer, one of his employees. He's a fellow police officer. I mean, whatever, 9 arrests or whatever. He's still a prior cop, and he's got somebody that's, as we knew, was probably already dead, right, in the hospital.
Already being reported to us, right? It was already being reported.
Yeah. This moron has the time to stop and give a video, an X video, to say that was what he's doing, and he does another one in his car en route to the hospital. I've never seen that done by any mayor. I've never seen that done by any other elected official. Your job is to get to that family. That's your job. That you're the mayor in the city of New York. You have a family that lives in New York. You have a police officer who served not only as a school crossing guard, but as a uniformed member of the service in the police department for close to 4 years. You got to get there and console the family. You're supposed to be their rock. This isn't a show. This is right there is the Eric Adams show. That's all. And to me, that was completely appalling. It was disgusting to see that. And you know, I don't know. I don't know why he thought that was a good idea, but I take it up to completely 180 and said that was the stupidest thing I've ever seen him done, and he's done a lot of stupid things. But you got family members that are grieving,
and also to the point, and we'll play the video, I guess. There needs to be one in an incident like this. There needs to be one voice,
right?
And that should be the NYPD. Until you give your presser, which wasn't until midnight, almost midnight, which I don't fault them for wanting to do the walkthrough, having to go to the hospital. You have a cop that goes DOA. You have to go to the hospital. You have to do.
No, I mean, yeah, you gotta show.
There
right?
Should be one voice. There should be one voice, and it should be from the NYPD news account, not from the police commissioner. It should be the NYPD news account. All other accounts should be frozen at that time. Normally, they'll send out a message to all commands to stop all social media posts. The only thing you should do is be reposting from NYPD news. That's what
or they can stop it. They can stop your ability to tweet too.
Right. So that should be the only place that people should be getting their information. Not, am I going to watch for the mayor's posts? Am I going to watch for the NYPD's posts and whatnot? And he's giving out this information. Let's watch this real quick.
Adams, and I'm here at the scene of 51st and Park Avenue. Unfortunately, we had a shooting here with multiple injuries. The perpetrator, the known perpetrator, is neutralized at this time. Those who are in the building, we're asking you to remain inside as police officers are doing a floor-by-floor search. We believe, again, the perpetrator is neutralized at this time. We're going over to the hospital to speak with the family and loved ones involved in this incident. We did have a shooter with multiple injuries at this time, but the perpetrator is neutralized.
I just want to address something real quick in the chat. Somebody had asked about why was the state trooper vehicle there. That was in the first photo. the state police, since Kathy Hochul, I mean, that they've been down in New York City,
Yeah.
and there actually is a troop, NYC, that's actually down in Lower Manhattan. So there are state troopers that are assigned, and I know that, they respond to incidents like that. I've seen them at other active shooter, calls or whatever. So they respond, and they're very helpful. I mean, obviously, they're a force multiplier also. So and you can see in some of the photos later on that they're all tacked up with their vests and their long guns. So it's all hands on at that point, and I think they're important. They're like a force multiplier, and so what? But his showmanship is terrible. I mean, I you know what? You want to do that later, but that's fine. Get to the family, And
Yeah,
in
I
my
agree.
opinion, when you say neutralize, that to me that usually means that a police officer or a civilian neutralizes the perpetrator. What happened to that individual? Had a self-inflicted gunshot wound. That's what that is. That was a suicide. And at first I didn't believe it was, because he was shot himself in the chest, I believe, or in the upper part. And I said, well, that's kind of weird. But then because of the brain injury and stuff like that, where he wanted to, only way you can test for that particular brain injury is through testing the brain through the autopsy. Then that made more sense. And I think that's been done previously by some other NFL players.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I just think, I think the point with that is that there should be in a high profile incident, there should be one point of contact, one place to get that the public should be getting all their information. I understand he's trying to get word out. He's trying to speak in his calming voice to let the city know that he's in control. Things are under control at this time. It's not the chaos that there was earlier. So I get that. But I still am in a strong belief that there should only, in an incident like this, should be one point for everybody to be looking for, and that should be the NYPD news account. Like I said, not even Police Commissioner Tish's account. The NYPD news account should be the only account, and that's really.
I don't know if you heard it today, but I don't know if it was Newsmax or one of the other networks, but it was Shell and Kaz said after they did the dignified transfer, which is when the ME releases the body, and the body's taken to the funeral home, or I guess the mosque. They did a walkthrough of the crime scene, and I was like, what? Why is the chief of department and the deputy mayor of public safety walking through the crime scene, which I guarantee it wasn't even processed yet? Okay, Kaz basically says that there was shell casings all over, and the place was all shut up. I don't understand why you're walking through. That's you weren't supposed to. All right, that's another thing. You walking through a crime scene? No, that's not what you're supposed to be doing either. So I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. You don't
Yeah.
have to go in there to know what happened. What are you gonna? And they're like, oh, I'm crying and this and that, and it was devastating. Absolutely, but why are you walking through the crime scene? And I mean, just quickly, I want to mention the other victims, right? So there was the security guard, there was a female and another male, and then there was a female, I believe, up on the 33rd floor that all
Yeah.
lost their lives. So our hearts go out to them too. I mean, their families, absolutely. It was a tragic event all around. I know we spent a lot of time on the member to service, because that's we're familiar with, but yeah, our hearts are with the families as well. You can't say it's a very sad situation, and unsuspecting, they're doing their job. They're just there and they're in a comfort zone, right? You're in your place of business. Yeah, a little level of comfort. You're probably not queued up as you would be on the streets, but you know, nowadays you have to be careful where you are anywhere. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Well, I
sad,
think we're going
day.
to get into that a lot more next week. We're going to talk about that and give two sides of the perspective on incidents like this. 'Cause I think one of the companies was very prolific and actually had a safe room with bathroom
Right.
that is able to be bolted shut and is bulletproof doors and everything. So the days that we live in, a lot of companies are taking these things seriously. So, all right, we talked about a lot today. We talked about discipline. We talked about retention, about morale with the job, and how all of that is intertwined. We went over, some of the things that have to do with this tragic event that happened on Monday. So let's move on and let's get into a quick because it's 2 hours. We're 2 hours and 10 minutes in. We like to do about 2 hours on the show. Let's get into a quick segment of Ask an Executive. At this point, we open it up again to the chat, which we're very interactive with. We've been interactive with through the whole show today. We love the engagement from the chat. It really it makes us, like I said earlier, feel good that we're keeping everybody staying on point. So we feel like we're doing something right by keeping you engaged for 2 hours. And we've maintained pretty decent viewership. So this is the point where we like to open it up to any questions, off topic, on topic, where you feel that maybe in your life as a career of of law enforcement, you didn't have access to the boss, right? Or if you're a civilian and you just had a question about policing in general, here's your opportunity to speak to two people that have spent, a total of almost 65 years in the police department with 40 years of executive experience. Any questions? Did you jot down any questions during the show, Rob? I think
we actually did. I saw Bobby did one at 1841 hours. He said, how do you guys feel about a supervisor who brags that they never issued a CD in their career in the NYPD?
1841?
Yeah, so, or 0641 hours. There you go. Yep.
How do you feel about a supervisor who brags and never issued a CD in their career in the NYPD? Listen, a lot of supervisors don't write command disciplines. And again, for those who aren't NYPD, terminology, a CD is a command discipline, which is internal, in-house discipline. We talked about it earlier in the show. But a supervisor that brags about it is saying what? What are they saying?
Yeah.
In what context? In what context? Hey, I never wrote a CD because I took care of things otherwise, or because I don't give a shit. There's two sides to that to look at, right?
Yeah.
If they don't care, or because they were able to handle things without going to paper.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would have to find out a little bit more. Where was the guy assigned? What, where was the guy assigned? What did he do? And why didn't he issue a CD? Did he use other ways? How was his leadership skills? Did he go on further? So what is? Well, I like Leroy Jenkins said, "What's your favorite color?" But
blue.
Blue. Okay.
Blue.
And what was John saying?
Actually, it's actually orange.
What was John's question there?
John he's asking for Eric. He wants to know what the difference between access and authority is.
Oh, no, please, John.
Oh, wait,
No.
Let me get my slideshow back up.
Where's the white flag? I throw it up.
Oh, from the chat, yeah. All right, let's give Leroy Jenkins a shot. We invited him onto the show today from the Day Show. Are cops treated fairly by supervisors? And do supervisors get away with doing things they shouldn't be getting away with doing? I think we partially answered that question earlier in the show when we talked about discipline and treating people fairly, and bosses that were heavy-handed with discipline and unfairly treating their subordinates, which causes low morale and actually causes problems with retention on the job and actually recruitment as well. So a cop's being treated fairly by their supervisor. It depends on the supervisor. It does. And do they get away with doing things they shouldn't be getting? Well, we see that that's happened at the upper echelon, and everything, isn't a problem until it's a problem. So, rank has its privileges, is taken way too far at times. So, are supervisors doing things that they shouldn't be doing? They are, but those are people with low integrity. Those aren't true leaders. You're a supervisor we've said this in the past, you're a supervisor by virtue of your rank, because you passed the civil service exam, or you were promoted to a discretionary rank by the police commissioner above the rank of captain in the executive ranks. That does not make you a good leader. And we've had podcasts on that in the past, and we actually touched on it again today.
Yeah, I agree. I think cops treated fairly by supervisors. It depends on the cop, and it depends on the supervisor. There are overzealous supervisors that don't treat cops fairly, and there are the guys that pick on. We spoke about that earlier in the podcast. That guys get picked on, and then they get ridden. That every supervisor goes to get the poor guy or girl out of there. And yeah, so I mean, and the supervisors, yeah, that's an abuse of authority. There are supervisors that do that, and it shouldn't. And I think I go back to, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but with Eric and what Eric's always says, but I will say that all chiefs are compromised. I agree with that now. So I think there's a problem there.
I'm not taking the bait.
Biting?
I'm not taking the bait. We don't have time. We're 2 hours and 17 minutes in. I'm not taking the bait. Sleepy Joe.
Got another 5 hours to go if you want.
And listen, I'll keep going, but I'm hearing from people that it's tough to stick on for 2 hours. But to be honest with you, we have a higher viewership right now than we did in the beginning of the show. So I know people we've gotten positive feedback about this segment that started a few weeks ago. And so we're going to keep going with it. Sleepy Joe asks, does 1PP feed info ahead of time to well-liked bosses for stats? Abso-freaking-lutely. Yes, they do. And it does happen. It's done for different reasons, so that you don't get embarrassed, you don't get caught off. There's nothing you can do about it, because the stats are the stats. The answers are going to be the answers. It's whether or not you have the answer readily available. And certain things you find out, like I've gotten phone calls, Ron, you can't know about this because there's no way you would have known about this in your normal preparation, but just be prepared. You're going to take a slap today at the podium, and you got to be prepared. And this way, at least it's not a complete surprise. There's other times where they'll tell you, because you know what? The stats are not supposed to be punitive. It's supposed to be where you come together, you talk about statistics, you talk about deployment, you're getting ideas from each other, and you're talking about problems you're having and maybe solutions to those problems. You are talking about shortcomings. You're talking about things that may be going on in your command, and they want to make sure that you know about them and you know what you're doing. But there's absolutely, you're going to get a heads up if you know the right people.
And there's also those softball questions that are asked.
To set somebody up.
You might not be, might have been told about stats or things that, fed ahead of time, but they give you these lob balls to somebody they're looking to promote or make look like they're the best thing since Swiss cheese. I've seen that too, so.
Yeah.
I think
they'll also give all the information to certain people that they want to look like superstars,
right,
to help promote them.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
I think RDV had a question. It's 7:22.
7:22. RDV, what are your thoughts about the department hiring next PC outside of the NYPD like Adams did with Keyshawn Sewell? You want to take that one?
Well, yeah, my thought on that is I personally think the PC should come from inside the department, because we know that by coming inside the department, going up through the ranks, everything that's within the department. You have a good corporate knowledge, that I would say. However, if Mayor Adams or the next mayor, Curtis Sleewell, comes out and says, I want to hire somebody has previous law experience, I would accept that too. The problem I have is when you take somebody and you put them in the position of the police commissioner, and they have no prior police department experience. They come completely outside, and they have to learn the job completely. They have to learn who they can trust and who they can't trust. We see what happened with Donlin. He came in, had some knowledge at JTTF, Joint Terrorism Task Force with the FBI. He had some knowledge with the Lower Manhattan Security Initiative and funding and things like that, but he didn't know the players, and he got to learn them real fast because they were all listed in his lawsuit. But I prefer somebody that personally has the corporate knowledge of the police department. It's a major machine, and you have to understand how that operates.
I agree with you 100%, especially like you're saying, coming into following this administration. Following this administration, there's a lot to be said for bringing an outsider in because of the current administration and all the issues and problems and scandals and everything else that have happened within this administration. But I agree with you that someone from within with corporate knowledge of the NYPD, knows the inner workings of the NYPD, would probably be a better choice. I don't know who that choice would be. If I was a police commissioner today, I don't know, well, if I was the mayor today, rather, I don't know who I would choose. I honestly don't. So I don't know if there even is, to be honest, who would I pick? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't even say, Rob Lukash would make a great police commissioner at this time going forward. So I believe that having that corporate knowledge. So I'll put it this way. They absolutely have to have uniformed law enforcement experience. I think they have, wherever they come from, they should have gone up, grown through the ranks of the police department so they can understand what it's like from the uniform side. Because like I said earlier, I don't think Tish is doing a bad job for what she's up against and her experience, because she did not come up, even though she came up in the NYPD, it was through administrative positions, albeit executive positions, but not on the uniform side, so she doesn't understand that side of it.
Right. And I think that goes to the point of, like, whether she is or she isn't issuing the decision to give guys CDs for no being late or no body worn camera, or transferring them for that. I mean, that's something that a guy or gal that comes up through the ranks realize the implications of that, So I think it's easy from a perspective up on top, but you have to understand take the personal feeling as well, how it's going to impact those cops.
All right, Leroy, you have a ton of questions, and we're not going to be able to get to all your questions. We don't normally answer multiple questions from one viewer, but it's your first time with the show. I'm going to hit another question up over here because it's something that we've talked about in the past. You can go back and look. We have a podcast on it. Do commanding officers change reports and misclassify reports and change reports from complainants so the precinct doesn't take a big crime? It does happen. Again, low integrity commanders do this. They do put pressure, because I saw it on another one of your questions. They do put pressure on their subordinates not to properly classify crimes in certain instances. We just recently had a transit district commander removed from his position for doing just that. So it does happen. It does happen throughout the job, and it is not acceptable in my eyes. I was never that type of person. I always had that, I hate cliches, but I had that it is what it is mentality. If I didn't know what the crimes were that were occurring, I couldn't properly deploy my resources in order to address those conditions. So there's plenty of people on the chat that have worked with me in the past. Not one of them is going to come forward and say that I've ever pressured anybody to misclassify anything or anything like that. As a matter of fact, when I did my CO's minutes, the minutes for my CO's meetings with my supervisors, I had on the footer, it's something I got from Chief Pizzuti. Never compromise your integrity for the sake of activity, whether that's summonses, arrests, or crime classifications. Your integrity is the most important thing. Do what's right. Do what's right. And integrity is doing the right thing when nobody's looking.
And we've had just recently somebody from the transit district that was doing that, and they lost their command.
Yep.
So there are repercussions for that. I just want to thank Samara Cohen. She told me I should be saying institutional knowledge. It's not corporate knowledge, it's institutional knowledge. So thank you for correcting me.
Well, after
Samara.
30 and 35 years, we should be institutionalized.
I appreciate that. I respect that, and I will change my terminology to institutional knowledge. Thank you.
You want to take this next one?
They said a lot of cops I know are vesting out with 10 years. What do you guys think about that? So I always say have an exit plan. That's fine. If you want to leave after 10 years, make sure you go into some other, either another law enforcement or some other position or whatever. Yeah, it's good to vest out after 10 years. Why? Because you get the PBA or the CEA benefits, because it's prior to vesting out before 10 years, you kind of lose your medical benefits. Just remember that, vest out at 10 years, you got to wait 10 years to get a pension. You got to wait for your 20th anniversary. So I understand that. You've invested a lot of time though, 10 years. You could also stay for the next 10 and get your full pension. If you're in that position where you don't feel you want to do that, then I understand that. But it's definitely a tough decision, but and it has to be an individual decision, right? But I can understand it, but I always say have an exit plan. And then know what you're going to do. Even if you do 20, have an exit plan, because I know a lot of guys that leave the NYPD after 20, get their pension, and they go into another law enforcement or security or whatever. So build your pension and build your resume, and then you make your decision. And just so you know, Leroy Jenkins has just nominated you for the police commissioner of the city of New York. Congratulations!
Me?
Yup.
I didn't get that. I'm holding up. I'm holding up for another question up top for a second.
I got at 7:31. He goes, Ron Racing for PC.
I appreciate it, Leroy. Yeah, just quick on this. I think we've touched on it. A lot of dudes, morale. I hate. What do I think about it? I hate it. I hate that cops are leaving the job after 10 years because it's a job that I loved. It's a job that I lived and loved going to work almost every single day. And that's not the case anymore today. And I completely understand that. And that's one of the reasons we do this podcast. John and Eric do their podcast, is to try to get the word out, try to express and be the voices for those that can't raise their voice. So I hate it. I hate that everybody's leaving. I don't blame them for leaving. I don't blame them for not coming on. And on that note, Housing for Life, as bosses, how do you keep from ventilating? I like to ventilating on subordinates if you're having a rough day. Listen, everybody's human. Everybody has a bad day. What I used to do is, everybody that worked for me knows I always had an open door policy. My door to my office was always open. If it was closed, it's because I was probably changing, or maybe if I was eating, I closed the door, or whatever the case may be. But my door was always open and inviting, and anybody could knock on my door and come in, from civilian to executive, to come in and say hello, ask a question, run something by me, whatever the case may be. If my door was closed, people stayed away because they knew that I might have been having a bad day and I didn't want to be bothered. So that's what I used to do. I used to isolate myself to try and control it, because it's not personal. It's like I said earlier about discipline. If I'm hot and I got angry at somebody for doing something that most likely was a tactical nightmare, like sleeping in their car, and I issued a command discipline, I still wouldn't adjudicate it while I was hot. I didn't want to ventilate on them.
Yeah, I think for me, the answer to that question is communication. Just like you said, you communicated by them seeing your door was closed, and the other thing I would do is just tell them, hey, listen, I'm really in a bad mood. I'm getting pressured from whoever, or I'm in a bad mood, and can we just talk about it tomorrow or the next day? That's all. So, any other ones there, Ron? You see anything else?
I'm scrolling down.
Hassan Mo's awake, I see.
Hassan's here.
Yeah. He says,
Hey, Hassan.
you pressured me to bring in Eric and Mo olive oil for their tanning sessions.
Oh, all right, Hassan. Welcome to the show. We were looking for you earlier. Let's see. I'm just scrolling down.
Yeah.
Oh, Captain and Coke is remembering that incident. He's talking about when I caught the guys less than aware of their surroundings. I don't see any more questions. So, hey, listen, so we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
You got anything else before we close it out, Rob?
No, just again, our hearts are out to the police officers, the poor victims of this shooting, the civilians, I just like to always give a little bit of tactical. Please keep your head out of your phone when you're on patrol. Keep yourself alert. You never know, what's coming around the corner, and just stay alert. You're out there. And obviously you see, you could be a target, and my heart goes out to Officer Islam's in his family. His father, I know, has had medical issues right now. His pregnant wife and the unborn child, and his two children. God bless them all. So
Yep.
be safe out there.
I agree. Okay, so tomorrow, 1:05 p.m., we're going to have the Sal Greco show. And then on Friday, you'll have Eric, John, and Marlon on the Friday roundtable. Next Tuesday at 7:05 p.m. So tomorrow is 13:05, 1:05 p.m. for Sal Greco, 8:05 a.m. on Friday for the Finest Unfiltered with Eric, John, and Marlon for the roundtable. And then Tuesday at 7:05 p.m., you have Tom Joyce, Pete Faselli in the 10-4 Tavern. We'll be back again next week on Wednesday. Look for that show. It should be a good one. And that's at 5:05 p.m. on Wednesday. Until then, everybody, be safe.